Hello and welcome to Frontlines of Social Good, the weekly news and views program from the Philanthropy Mastermind series. I'm Jay Frost. Today, we'll begin with the top 5 gifts of the week, as we normally do, and a look at the headlines shaping philanthropy, fundraising, and social impact as we head furiously into the giving season. Later, we'll turn to the evolving world of nonprofit finance with someone who's helping reshape how organizations think about money, sustainability, and long-term stewardship. Karen Houghton, CEO of Infinite Giving and author of Funding Your Mission, The Modern Guide for Nonprofit Finance, joins the program to unpack what today's nonprofit leaders need to understand about modern financial strategy, from managing reserves and investments to navigating volatility and building durable revenue models. Together, we'll explore what's changing in the financial landscape, why it matters to every fundraiser and executive, and how smarter financial practices can strengthen mission impact for years to come. Let's get started. First, the top 5 gifts of the week. Coming in at number 5, $25 million from Kent and Liz Doughton and the Doughton Family Foundation to Northwestern Medicine to establish the Northwestern Medicine Doughton Behavioral Health Institute, a pioneering initiative aimed at redefining behavioral health across Chicagoland and beyond. The gift also establishes the Bipolar Disorder Center of Excellence to advance understanding and patient care. Number 4 is a tie this week. First, $30 million from Michael Rees to the University of Pittsburgh in support of a scholars program for first-year students. The gift will create an endowed fund to expand the number of Frederick Honors College students receiving scholarships through the existing Chancellor's Scholars Program, covering full room, board, and tuition. And, again in the tie, $30 million from John and Shandon Addison in support of efforts to expand and improve its School of Engineering. This will serve as a lead gift for the university's $300 million Power the Impossible campaign. Number 3, $35 million from Waverly House Foundation to CHIO and the Hospital for Sick Children, or Sick Kids as it's known, to redefine mental health care for children and youth through precision medicine that offers personalized approaches. Number 2 this week, $100 million from the MacArthur Foundation to the Broad Institute for the Sentinel Project, a surveillance framework that prevents pandemics through local empowerment of communities. And number 1 this week, $300 million from T. Denny Sanford to Sanford Health. This landmark gift establishes the Sanford Black Hills Medical Center, a state-of-the-art regional hospital that will expand access to high-quality care across western South Dakota and the surrounding region. The project includes advanced trauma, pediatric, and specialty services, the largest philanthropic investment in the region's healthcare history. Have we missed a big gift announcement this week? I'm certain that we have. Let us know what it is by contacting me directly through LinkedIn or by email at j@donorsearch.net. Now for our top stories of the week. We begin with one of the largest corporate commitments announced in 2025. USAA has launched a new initiative called Honor Through Action, pledging $500 million over the next 5 years to support the military community. According to the company's announcement, reported by Philanthropy News Digest, the investment focuses on 3 core areas: expanding meaningful career pathways for veterans and military spouses, improving financial security for military families, and strengthening mental health and overall well-being, including efforts to prevent veteran suicide. USAA says the initiative is designed to bring together public, private, and nonprofit partners to create meaningful, measurable change on the issues most affecting service members, veterans, and their families. Philanthropy News Digest this week reports that Mackenzie Scott has awarded $428 million in unrestricted grants to 10 historically black colleges and universities. These gifts, among the largest single awards in each institution's history, went to schools including Clark Atlanta University, Norfolk State University, and Xavier University of Louisiana. What distinguishes this round of giving is not just the scale, but the flexibility. The funds come with no restrictions, allowing university leaders to allocate resources to the most pressing institutional needs, from improving student success and strengthening faculty support to expanding academic programs and bolstering long-term financial stability. The grants continue Scott's pattern of large-scale, trust-based philanthropy aimed at addressing systemic inequities and strengthening institutional resilience. According to the Associated Press, Jimmy Donaldson, known globally as Mr. Beast, is partnering with the Rockefeller Foundation to spark youth philanthropy by combining his massive online influence with the foundation's 112-year track record in addressing global challenges. The two organizations told AP they plan to travel to Ghana early next year to learn how philanthropy can better support community-led change, with Rockefeller President Rajiv Shah noting that the visit will help explore how future philanthropists can create change at a global scale. The collaboration's early focus includes combating child labor in the cocoa industry, tied to Donaldson's efforts through his snack brand, Feastables. As he told the AP, "Through Feastables, I want to show that chocolate can be profitable without using child labor on cacao farms." Shaw said the partnership aims to pair Mr. Beast's reach with evidence-based action, explaining, "Our hope is to inspire a new generation of givers who want to solve big problems." The AP reports that no specific dollar amount or grant-making structure has been announced, and both sides describe the partnership as an evolving effort to mobilize young audiences in global philanthropy. In another story of community action amplified through social media, last year, Kansas-based lawn care creator S.B. Mowing, whose videos regularly reach millions, came across an injured cat while mowing an overgrown lawn and brought it to Edgar and Ivy's Cat Sanctuary in Corpus Christi, Texas. When he learned the sanctuary was struggling financially and at risk of closing, he launched a GoFundMe campaign and shared the story with his audience. The initial goal was, I believe, $10,000, which was a life-saving amount for the organization, which was in danger of closing. According to local reporting, the campaign eventually raised more than $189,000, along with truckloads of donated supplies. The influx of support stabilized the sanctuary, funded major repairs, and helped establish a new SB Mowing Community Wellness Center on site. A year later, the sanctuary remains open, an example of how individual creators can mobilize enormous support for small, local nonprofits that would otherwise be invisible to the broader philanthropic landscape. This story in itself is also the result of social media, and specifically the account of Jen, our good news girl, on Instagram, who shared the story again recently, making it aware to us. As we enter the final week before Giving Tuesday, the most recent 24-25 data offers a clear picture of what nonprofits should expect and how to prepare. According to Neon One's 2024 analysis, charitable giving in the United States totaled approximately $592.5 billion, a 6.3% increase in current dollars. But the timing of that giving remains heavily concentrated at year end. Neon One reports that online giving on December 31st, 2024 reached 11% over the previous year. CallHub's 2024 breakdown of Giving USA data found that nearly 30% of all annual giving happened in December, with 12% of annual giving online occurring in the final 3 days of the year. GiveButter's 2024 year-end analysis adds another critical point. Giving Tuesday accounts for roughly 6%, I'll repeat that, 6% of online year-end revenue, but the final week of December accounts for 46% of year-end revenue. And December 31st alone generates about 16% of online year-end revenue. As Giving Tuesday data Commons summarized this year, quote, "The long tail of generosity in December far outweighs the spike on Giving Tuesday." CAF America's 2024 Donor Trends report offers helpful context on donor priorities heading into year-end. U.S. donors say they are most likely to support health-related causes, 46% indicating so, and poverty alleviation and basic needs, coming in at 43% of respondents. This aligns with ongoing economic instability and the rising demand for basic human services. So, what does the week ahead need to accomplish? Well, here are some suggestions, and you can find more by visiting, of course, the Giving Tuesday site, which is chock full of information throughout the giving season and particularly focused, of course, on next Tuesday and what we can do to make it bountiful and successful. First, treat Giving Tuesday as the launch point, not the end goal. Second, warm your donor file and then move quickly into segmented year-end appeals. Third, ensure your giving flows are friction-free, especially on mobile. If you don't know what that means, try to make a gift to your organization. See how easy it is for you to do on a mobile device. 4, increase board-driven outreach and major donor follow-up. This is particularly important because we need both the support of those closest to us and their ambassadorship in spreading the word on a day like Giving Tuesday and throughout the year-end fundraising cycle. And finally, ground your messaging in clear need and measurable outcomes. People like to know that their giving is really having results. This is a perfect time to tell those stories and demonstrate those outcomes. As fundraising strategist James Meisner, who's been a guest in our series, put it, donors aren't on the sidelines because they don't care. They're waiting for a compelling reason to act. Giving Tuesday provides that initial reason, and December provides the rest. That brings us to today's conversation. If Giving Tuesday and the broader year-end cycle highlight anything, it's the need for nonprofits to strengthen their financial planning, reserves, and investment strategies to weather volatility. Our next guest is Karen Houghton, the CEO of Infinite Giving and the author of Funding Your Mission, the Modern Guide for Nonprofit Finance. I spoke with her about how organizations can approach financial stewardship with more clarity, modern tools, and long-term discipline, especially as we head into the coming giving season and beyond. Here is that conversation. So Karen, thank you very much for being here to talk about your new book, and congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
And it's just coming out today.
Yes, it is officially live to purchase on Amazon. The book is called Funding Your Mission, and it's the modern guide to nonprofit finance. It's what I wish I had when I was an executive director of a nonprofit.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about what it is about, because nonprofit finance is a big, broad spectrum. Are we talking about a book for CPAs? Is this a book for fundraisers, for executive directors, as you just said? Who is this for, and what does it cover?
It's a great question. And you're right. It is this big green space where no one's really talking about it. There's a lot of traditional finance, and then there's nonprofits who are working with money all the time. We're fundraising it, we're spending it, we're budgeting it. But when you really talk about how do we manage it and how much is enough and how much is too enough, and should I have an endowment or should I have reserves or can we invest? There's no other textbook on this. There's no one who's really filling the gap of like, hey, we understand nonprofit finance specifically. And that's what I experienced as an executive director, 20 plus years ago, and it remains true today. So what we have done is really create a roadmap for how do we think about nonprofit finance differently than traditional finance. So I wrote it with as little jargon as I could manage. And I've got a big heart for the problem we're solving. And ultimately, it's to help make nonprofits more financially sustainable so they can continue to do the good work that they're doing to make our world a better place. So it's a big kind of offering an invitation to step into a place where we have a mindset shift. And we want you to move from scarcity thinking to strategy. And ideally, eventually, sustainability is what we all want. So those are some of the core themes, like how as a nonprofit leader, because it's written for any nonprofit leader. So that could be the development person, the finance director, the executive director, the board member, the treasurer, any of those folks who are involved in the financial strategies of any nonprofit. And it really struggles and works through, should we be in a scarcity mindset? I passionately believe we should not, even though we all start there. So how do we move from the scarcity mindset to strategy? And then how do we work through that strategy to lead us to sustainability? We try to stay really practical. How do we build reserves? How much is enough? How much is too much? What's a tiered financial strategy? So working through like your operating cash flow and then your short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategy with your reserves. And then we even talk about creating investment policies and guidelines, how to use modern tools for stock and crypto. And so it's really this big picture that looks at how do we provide a practical manual to empower these leaders to make really confident decisions around their finances instead of reactive ones. Because most of us live in that scarcity kind of reactive mindset. And we really just want to help steer the sector into a more sustainable one altogether. And hopefully this book helps us do that.
Well, it sounds like it will. Maybe if people can sort of see themselves in the shoes you were in before, then
Yeah.
it'll help them to see this transformation that you've made and what you help people to make through the book. Can you take us back in those 20 odd years, whatever it was, to tell us what were the troubles or the challenges that you were encountering, and how did that lead to the inspiration for thinking about these issues in your work and now in the book?
Yeah. I have an interesting background because I have been a fundraiser and executive director and founder of a nonprofit, a small nonprofit, where I was learning, okay, well, how do I create a board? I got to file for my 501(c)(3). And I ran that for 7 years and lived in a scarcity mindset as we worked through the banking process and transferring money internationally and working with our donors and those more generous donors and what language do I use and how do I talk about that? And I've also served on a lot of boards. And so I serve on a board of trustees for higher ed, where we have a very small $2 billion endowment, which is small in higher ed, right? And then also serve on boards right now where we're desperately trying to build a 6-month reserve fund. So I've seen both sides of those. And I think in that experience, I really personally have that vision for why do we need to live this way? And a lot of that comes from because after that life, I built a career in venture capital. I built a career in technology, and that decade plus in venture capital and in tech really exposed me to how businesses and these other organizations think about money, what's available to them, how accessible it is, even something like an FDIC sweep program. And I know I'm getting a little financially nerdy here, right? But anybody in finance knows this. You may know it even from your personal finances. An FDIC sweep program provides coverage on cash, so that if there's any issues with the banking system or anything like that, the federal government is saying, great, I will cover your money up to 250K per bank per institution. So because of that, it's considered best practices for nonprofits because we're very risk averse. Yet nonprofits have significantly more money than that in their bank account, or if they need to move away from that, they open multiple bank accounts, right? So a lot of these folks listening, if they look at, well, how many financial accounts do we actually have? Usually it's between 5 and 12. Where you're looking at, all right, well, we have this bank accounts, and then how many banks? We're at 4 different banks. We have this many accounts for banks. We have a brokerage account over here. We have this account over here. And some of that starts with FDIC sweep programs. Sweep programs provide additional coverage, so you don't have to go to multiple banking institutions. Very common for businesses, even kind of common for you and I, like what we call retail customers in the financial world. Nonprofits typically don't get offered those. And so we offer an FDIC sweep program that provides coverage on cash up to $5 million at Infinite Giving. And it immediately helps streamline finances. It keeps their funds safer. And why is that hard, right? And there's a lot of reasons, right? That there's a lot of complexities. We need our local banks. We love our community banks, but that's not where, as we develop reserves and other longer term holdings, that I believe that those funds should be held because there are other better opportunities outside of traditional banking that many of us don't explore. So that's kind of where this came from. So 10-year career in tech and venture capital and finance. So today I'm an investment advisor, and I still serve on boards, several actually, and really advise through Infinite Giving, working with hundreds of nonprofit organizations. And I found myself having a lot of the same conversations of how do we think about our cash? Do we have reserves? Okay, well, how many months of reserves? And a lot of folks, so it's not incredibly complex, but they're really important conversations. Like, do we have reserves? How much is it? How are we thinking about that? Are they still in your checking or a savings? Are they locked up in a CD? What if you need them? And we kind of go through that financial planning process if they want us to. And then even talking about endowments, right? Should we have an endowment? We thought those weren't accessible. We thought we shouldn't do that, but now we hear that we should. And we'll work through all of the short, midterm, and long-term strategies, giving that framework. And we have had so much feedback on how valuable it is and how much it makes sense and how helpful it is and how having a fiduciary partner who actually understands small to mid-sized nonprofits, because that's who we serve at Infinite Giving, that we really thought this is an opportunity to write a book and provide some of that advice and expertise and guidance that we give to our clients every day, and make it more accessible for everybody, with the idea of creating, again, more financially savvy institutions, which is more sustainable and hopefully gives us a better world. So it's the best of ideally taking everything that the for-profit world does well, because they do a lot well, and how they think about money and what's accessible, right? But then nonprofits are different. So how do we apply that to, the idea that it's donor money and we need a fiduciary responsibility and we think about it differently and we want to put it to work immediately as much as we can. And I think that's where I live a lot, is I wish that nonprofit leaders could learn more from for-profit businesses and how we think about things. But I also wish for-profit businesses could learn a lot more from how nonprofits run and do good work.
Well, and let me dive into one aspect of that about the application of the book. Again, we haven't read it
Yeah.
yet. We'll be able to read it now, but I wonder how much of this is a matter of not just understanding the tools and techniques, so that we feel like it's not all an environment of scarcity. That there is, you didn't use the word abundance, but I know that's often the contrast as people talk about a field of abundance. But there is a different psychology involved in this, and knowledge is one big piece, but it's also getting people to think together that they can do these things. So how do you imagine people interacting with this content? Is it reading it and then having a discussion internally with the organization? Is it bringing this content to the board and then having the board communicate to the team? Where are the ways that people can take these ideas and then apply them in a practical way, so they stop fearing what might happen tomorrow if they don't, do things in the most conservative way possible?
Right. The idea is that it's as practical as it can be. And so we've written it in a way where there's storytelling. I know nonprofit finance is not, always riveting material, but we've tried to make it as engaging as possible with a lot of stories about nonprofits and clients that we've served and ways they've applied this knowledge. And so we want everyone to read it. We've written it in a way that hopefully is easy to understand. We have an appendix with a lot of really practical applications of like, great, here's a matrix of how you understand your finances. Here's how you do an audit. Here's a template for an investment policy statement. And we actually have a whole chapter on how you talk to the board. How do you approach your board? How do you, what language should you use as we're talking about kind of reframing how we think about money? And it's not about we don't want to worry about risk. Like, we just want to do all the things with the money. No, we're operating within, we understand this is a risk averse, industry, and how do we apply really thoughtful stewardship to that? Because sometimes, like, some of the myths around this that we're trying to break with, the overhead myth and the scarcity mindset is, oh, we can't have any reserves. So we'll start at like the lowest hanging fruit. The idea of there are no reserves, you can't have money, you should be deploying your money all the time. And we work through the idea that reserves are actually responsible leadership. Because what if you launch that program that you've been working so hard for and you're serving all these people, and then something happens and a grant doesn't come through, or a donor is no longer able to give that big gift that they had pledged? Then you have to stop the program and you're no longer serving the people that you were building relationships with. And does that do more harm than good, right? Just like you and I do ideally for our families, is we want to build a savings account just in case. Like, what if we lose a job? What if something happens? What if there's COVID, right? Like we've lived through some of that. And so a lot of it is having that conversation with your board, your finance team, right? There's always someone in the room who is like, I'm not comfortable with this. And that's okay, but it's working through. I started with the word abundance in there too. And I know everyone, like we hear that a lot. And I was like, I think that word is uncomfortable to a lot of people. So we're not going to use it because abundance, there's good to that. And I think there's a lot of reason and purpose. And I'm pretty sure we slip it in once or twice in the book because it feels like abundance when you're sustainable as a nonprofit. But the reality is we want sustainability. And I think even our most fearful people can get behind the idea of no, we want to be sustainable. We want to do what we can to not live in fear of what is money coming in, right? And even if you look at nonprofit leaders and how much scarcity mindset is burning them out, it's like, how do we care for our people? How do we make sure that the people we're serving and the people who are serving those people can move forward in confidence that what they're doing has sustainability to that. And that's what we want. And I think there's good intention around all key stakeholders saying, let's have a conversation. Ideally, the book is giving you the tools to have that conversation and the framework. And then you work through it and you find out, all right, this fits us, or maybe a version of this fits us. There are a lot of right paths forward. But if we could, at the very least, invite everyone to the table to have a conversation around it, then that's a success.
And you just talked about being around the table. It's Thanksgiving week
Yeah.
as we talk. And I know that you have thought about this not just at the office, in your own trajectory and what it means to other nonprofits, but also what it means to families. You just mentioned that a minute ago. There's also a version of this for young adults. Is that right? Or for children? So what is that? When is that coming out?
Yes. So we have written this book for nonprofit leaders. It's actually available on Amazon as of today, Funding Your Mission. Shortly, probably later in December, so in about 4 weeks or so, we are also doing a children's book. I'm a mom and trying to communicate what nonprofits do and how important they are to the ecosystem and how money plays such an important role, right? Because the money is the mission. Like passion is not enough. We have to have money behind that so we can do the good work at hand. And so we thought there was a great opportunity to tell that story to our children as well about what is stewardship and savings and generosity and finding that balance. So Infinite Giving has a mascot, which is a pig. And the pig's name is Iggy. For IG, for Infinite Giving, we call him Iggy. And the idea is he is a superhero who is a savings, like he's a piggy bank. And he's got a blue mask and a blue cape, and he flies around and helps nonprofits. And so it highlights different nonprofit organizations and the leaders, and then invites them into his toolkit and how we can help think about money, both with generosity and giving and with, stewardship and thoughtfulness.
I have to ask you about the current environment
Yeah.
before we close. This has been a kind of a challenging year for nonprofits for lots of reasons.
Yes.
There was obviously the government shutdown. That's only one small component. There were all these layoffs. The market has been way up, but we know that wealth inequality is the highest rate it's been, I think, since the Great Depression. So there are lots of different factors that may influence not only the infrastructure decisions an organization might make or that a family makes because
Yeah.
of what resources it has and when they're available to them, but also it just affects how we feel, sort of that idea about do we have enough or do we not? When you're releasing this book into that maelstrom, what are you imagining nonprofits and the people who work for them can do differently in order to gain confidence and move into this next year with a greater sense of I don't know, control or vision for being successful and sustainable?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think so much, the hope and the prayer is that this book is reaching hands of these courageous nonprofit leaders who Sometimes, we talk to people and they're like, "Oh, that sounds great, Karen. We wish we had that problem." But if you don't start somewhere, right? Every nonprofit leader, including myself when I was doing it, we all start in that scarcity mindset. I think what we hope is that providing a framework and some language and vision, at the very least, is coming alongside these leaders and saying, "Great, we feel you, we understand where you are, and that's okay. What if we could cast a vision and provide a framework that will get you from here to here, right? And how do we move that next step forward?" Because when you're doing all of this essential work, but you're operating in survival mode, it burns you out. And there are all these additional financial pressures, rising costs, donor shifts, the volatility. And as any nonprofit leader knows, that passion alone can't fund sustainability. Money is what fuels that mission. And it's something that a lot of us operate in fear around. We're not comfortable talking about it. We're raised told that it's rude to talk about money, and then all of a sudden we're fundraising it, and we are not in a place of power in those conversations, but it's inviting people into the story. And so we hope that you feel appreciated when you read it. We hope you feel understood, and we hope that nonprofit leaders feel hopeful that they have a new strategy and someone who understands them, who can help them get, whether they're already in, a financially sustainable place and they still want to, cast a bigger vision. We want to meet you where you are. If you're in that scarcity mindset, we are still for you. And we want you to get to the next step as well.
So where can people get this book now? Is it
Yes,
largely
it
on
is
Amazon?
available on Amazon. We have a Kindle version. We also have the paperback version. So you can look us up on Amazon, and it's called Funding Your Mission by Karen Houghton.
Thank you so much, Karen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our thanks again to Karen for sharing her insights on preparing for a strong and sustainable future for all the organizations in our sector, including yours. Now, as we head into Thanksgiving week here in the US, we want to begin with a note of gratitude and a preview for what's ahead. First, while there's no show this Thursday as we take time to rest and reconnect with family and friends, there will be time to check out the work of a few of the rising stars in the nonprofit world through the PM podcast. Last Friday on the podcast, we kicked off our annual salute to CNN heroes with a conversation with Deborah Devines, founder of the Indiana Prison Writers Workshop and one of the top 5 CNN heroes of 2025. Coming up this Friday, November 28th, the salute continues with Heidi Carmen, founder of First Responder Therapy Dogs. Looking ahead to next week, we return with our full programming schedule. On Tuesday, December 2nd, Frontlines of Social Good, this show features Jim Fruchterman, founder and CEO of Tech Matters and author of Technology for Good. We'll explore how nonprofits are using software, data, and responsible tech to tackle complex social problems and what leaders need to understand as we all head into the new year. Then, on Thursday, December 4th, How to Raise turns to Bequest fundraising in the UK with Dr. Claire Routley of Legacy Futures and Adele Bennett of Exeter College, University of Oxford. They'll unpack the motivations of legacy donors, why universities play a unique role in that landscape, and what U.S. organizations can learn as the intergenerational wealth transfer accelerates. You can find out about all that and more on the website of our very generous sponsor, for whom we are eternally grateful, and that is DonorSearch at DonorSearch.net. I'm Jay Frost. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, take care and do good.